Hey y'all, it's Bear, and today I'm here to recommend you some books using my TBR cards. I saw my friend Jesse from the channel Bowties and Books do this video where they used their own deck of TBR because they do this TBR game where they draw cards every month and then read books based on the prompts, kind of similarly to what I have started doing with Bear's board game TBR. Give them a good shuffle. Okay, first we have Yellow Hearts. Read a book by a favorite author. How's Your Head? A vintage horror novel. Long story short, read a book under 300 pages. Virtual Rock, read a book set in a country other than your own. Not Like Other Girls, so something that's not a novel. So I'm going to cut you off. I'm going to go find the books that I want to recommend and then we'll get back to it. Alright, so first in our lineup, we have Yellow Hearts, a book by a favorite author, and pause for tension, because no one has any idea what I'm about to say. Wow, we're so shocked that Bear is talking about Stephen Graham Jones again. However, I hope I'm surprising you with the Stephen Graham Jones book I am talking about. I'm not talking about The Only Good Indians, even though that's my favorite by him. I'm talking about Mapping the Interior today, which I'm going to recommend to people because whenever I first read Mapping the Interior, this was my first Stephen Graham Jones book. I finished it and I was just like, this is fucking amazing. I am going to read every single thing that this author has ever put out. This one follows a boy who sees the ghost of his dead father like walking through their house and decides he's going to trace his father's footsteps and see what's going on. He's going to make a map of his father's path through the house. Subtly terrifying. There's a lot of good gore in here for it to be so short. There's like interesting family dynamics that I liked. This one's just, I read this and I was like, this is what I've been looking for. Because as an Indigenous person who has been very misrepresented by horror, I think is a good way to put it, this was my first foray into Native American horror and I was just blown away by it. Like, this one opened up a whole new world for me, and for that I will forever be grateful to Stephen Graham Jones. But I would say this is my first favorite book by my now favorite author. We have How's Your Head, a vintage horror novel, and for that one I'm going with Crota by Owl Going Back. This is a detective creature feature, I guess would be a good way to describe it. Some law enforcement and game warden people in the small town who are trying to solve all of these mysterious bear attacks that keep happening in their town where there are no bears. And it turns out that it's actually an ancient monster known as the Crota who has been awakened and is killing off everyone one by one. It feels weird calling something younger than me vintage, but I think by definition the word vintage is anything that's older than 20 years old, so this would technically count as vintage. If you like things like Grizzly or Jaws or like Rats or anything like that, Slither, I would recommend checking this one out because it's just like, it's a good time. I don't expect it to be very modernized. It's very kind of misogynistic. It's mostly just like men trying to fight this monster. So like, be aware of what you're going into whenever you go into it. But this one is a lot of fun. It's just very dated. Next, we have Long Story Short, a book under 300 pages, and for that, I'm going to recommend Friday Black. This is a short story collection that, oh my fucking god, blew my goddamn socks off. I read this whole thing over the span of 2 days, and I was just like devouring every single story in this book. I like the way that sometimes different stories will call back to past stories. Ultimately, this book is a short story collection that is like horror, speculative, almost science fiction-y at times, into like the horrors of racism and the horrors that Black people face every day. And y'all, these stories just like, it blew my fucking mind. This is one of the only short story collections I've ever given 5 stars to, because I consider this one like, it's technically perfect. Like, I found no faults while reading this at all. And also, like I said, it's under 200 pages, so just give it a shot. For Virtual Rock, read a book set in a country other than your own. I have Confessions by Kanai Minata. And this one, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. That was the only thing I could think while reading this book. It's a multi-perspective book, and each perspective follows like someone who's related to the teacher or a student that was in the class, or like a family member of the teacher's students or something like that. But with each story, you kind of peel back a little bit further and further, like the truth behind her daughter's death. The teacher reveals, like, at the end of her POV section that she's gotten revenge on these students that murdered her daughter by spiking their milk with blood from a person with AIDS. People finding out who the students were, the students' perspective, their kind of spirals into insanity and their guilt, the family members that surrounded the students that caused them to spiral into insanity, and the reason they murdered the daughter. And it gets so deep, and each layer, it's kind of telling the same story over and over again, but you get to peel back different layers of the story as you read, and it was just so good. Finally, not like other girls, read something that is not a novel. I am going to recommend to you I Am Not Your Final Girl by Claire C. Holland. This is a poetry collection. Each poem in the book is based on a final girl from a horror film. But also definitely recommend reading the author's note at the beginning, because right here it says, these are not all final girls in the strictest sense. The term horror heroine is coming into vogue, and it seems more appropriate since things don't always end well for strong, angry women. This one is fantastic. It helped me get through a lot of shit that I didn't even realize I was going through, and reading it from the perspective of someone who has seen almost all the horror films in here, and seeing the way that Claire C. Holland writes her own experience into the experiences of these fictional characters was great, and I loved it. These are the 5 books that I'm recommending to you based on my TBR cards. If you enjoyed this video, let me know by leaving a like and subscribing and hitting the bell and sharing and all that stuff, as well as answering the comment question of the day. I'm going to draw a random card for the comment question, and then I want you to recommend me a book based on this card. Trick or treat, read a book set around a holiday. So I want you to recommend me a book. It doesn't have to be a horror novel, just a book set around a holiday. And that'll be your comment question of the day. And if you don't have time, you don't have the spoons, you don't have an answer, or you don't want to answer, let me know you made it all the way until the end of the video by leaving me an emoji, preferably a smiley face emoticon or a yellow heart. Also, make sure you go check out Jessie's video, which I will be leaving downstairs, and go show them some support. All right, I hope you have a wonderful, whatever it is, wherever you are, and I will see you tomorrow for another spooky video. Thank you for watching. Okay.